Hey guys, it's Beth, and I realized that I am not fully done with complaining about My Hero Academia. I doubt I ever fully will be. It is a series that is near and dear to my heart, so I'm always going to find more things to complain about because I genuinely. The series has existed for 10 years, and that is literally half of my life. I have spent half of my life getting attached to these characters and truly caring about them and caring about the story. So the fact that it ended the way it did, it leaves a lot to be desired within my eyes. And I'm forever going to look back at a lot of things and question, hey, that kind of was a bad decision, like, or an oversight that you really have to, have a good suspension of disbelief. And I'm not going to get super into a lot of the things that I cover 1,000 times over. Like my problems with Bakugo, for instance. It's like, yes, my issues with Bakugo are very well. They're very well, like, I've spoken on it a numerous amount of times. And for those of you who have not heard my endless rants about it, you can basically sum it up with Bakugo never faces any real consequences for his actions, and at the end of the day, you kind of have to treat the initial Bakugo that you're revealed with and the one that hurt Deku for over a decade from the age of 4 to the age of 16. You basically just have to ignore that as soon as Bakugo gets kidnapped, and you have to treat that one as if like it exists in an alternate reality. You have to just ignore that, which it doesn't work well, and it actually leads into one of my first topics, which is I do love Aizawa a lot. Shota Aizawa, Eraserhead, is one of my favorite characters. I think he's one of the better written characters, and I think he, in particular, shows a lot of growth throughout the series, which is surprising. However, he definitely dropped the ball when it came to Izuku and Bakugo's history, and handling Izuku in general. Um, at But I can't fully say single out Aizawa on this one because it's basically every adult around him. But Aizawa is just the one who interacts with him the most as his homeroom teacher. But you would think that an entire cast of characters who are all pro heroes, you think at least one of them would be able to look at Izuku displaying very clear, a very clear signs of abuse, and there should have been at least one house call for a wellness check on the Midoriya residence. That one requires a lot of you gotta suspend disbelief a lot there. I'll be for real. One of the things that always pissed me off, but it's not really a big deal, is the fight with Todoroki in the sports festival. In my head, I'm just in what world would this be allowed, and in what world would this be called as, a match in Todoroki's favor? It's very clear that, Izuku would have killed Todoroki if it were not for the intervention. He was about to pull a straight up Goku Dragon Fist versus King Piccolo, where he just completely destroy that motherfucker just barrels through him, leaving a gaping wound in his chest. It's that would have not gone well. It's good that they interrupted, but that match should not have been called in anyone's favor. That should have been immediate regards for a recount. But at the same time, it's at that point it was just a battle shonen, so you can kind of suspend disbelief there. It's just oh, okay. fair enough. Like, it's kind of like, that doesn't make sense, but, like, for the purposes of a piece of media, yeah, that's fine. There are much bigger issues than just that. There are a lot of, like, disappointing things on, like, a writing standpoint. Is like, obviously they did not address Bakugo and Izuku's past well at all, in my opinion. I think that there is such, like, an actual, like, good idea for Bakugo's character that they never, like, fully fleshed out as... But, like, somehow people, like, see, like, have, like, an alternate version of the show where they get to see that, which is incredible. I wish I was in the universe that had that, because, like, that would be really cool to see. But, no, he kind of just sucks. But, like... yeah. But, I mean, like, there are far... I don't want to say far worse characters than Bakugo. Because Bakugo really fucking sucks. But, like, there are characters that annoy me on the same level that have way less screen time. So they are worse in that sense, where it's just, like, they make me feel the same amount of animosity as a character that literally told the main character to kill themselves in the first chapter. And also abuse them for an entire decade, but whatever. And that would be, you know... in the Overhaul arc, we are introduced to the worst monsters in the series. Mirio Togata and Mirai, I can't even remember his last name. Sir Night-Eye and Lemillion. Yes, I am going to put them above, like, I know I'm clearly making a joke, it's like, about how it's like, Overhaul is an actual fucking monster, but yet I'm calling Mirio and Night-Eye monsters. The difference is, I expect Overhaul to be a bad guy, because he is a villain. He is an anime villain who is incredibly fucked up. You expect him to be incredibly fucked up. And he is. You do not expect heroes to be... oh my god. Basically, like... the best way to describe how I feel about Mirio is that in the final chapter, when they reveal that Mirio is the #1 hero in the future, my first thought was, oh no. Because I'm just thinking, it's like, well, I hope there are no abuse victims in the future, because that motherfucker will literally hand them directly back to their abuser. Because that is what happens in the Overhaul arc with Eri. Yeah, Mirio decides to just hand Eri over to Overhaul, ignoring all of, you know, the bruises, scars, bandages, and tattered clothing she is wearing, and also giving her back to the most obvious fucking cult member you've ever seen in your entire life. Solely because he's doing stuff exactly by the books, asterisk. Hey, I'm gonna be honest, there's probably a part in the books where, it talks about the fact that, hey, you should probably, you know, investigate if, like, if you have suspected cases of child abuse, you should probably, like, take them to the hospital and, like, question the parents. I feel like that's something that should be addressed. But, you know, never mind. That guy, that's the #1 hero. And don't even get me fucking started on Night-Eye. It's like, Mirio is nothing but dick jokes and ass jokes, and also exposing himself to people who did not know what they were getting into. But at the same time, we can't fully blame Mirio for that, because he probably learned that from Night-Eye, given the fact that the first thing you see of Night-Eye is him literally sexually harassing one of the people he employs. So, like, yeah, that's really cool. Thanks, my hero. I think Stain was right. Yeah, Stain, you should have gotten that one. It's like... Like, I understand why exactly, like... Night Eye's definitely a dumbass. Like, he has his reasoning for not trusting Izuku with the power of One for All. But also, given the fact that he took a child and made, like... was basically grooming them in order to become the new All Might because they had a visual resemblance to him. And basically, because he was the one responsible for helping Mirio, like, properly control his quirk, he feels like he's basically, like, forcing the man into a debt with him. I think there should be an investigation into Night Eye. He is dead, however, someone should, like, this dude should have, like, someone should have investigated the Night Eye Agency. That's all I'm saying. Like, hello? The fuck? Anyway, moving forward, there are certain things that happen in My Hero that really frickin' suck from a writing standpoint, such as the deaths of Namuri, Kayama, and Magne, that are done entirely for shock value and nothing more. Namuri is, like, the most blatant, like, they did that purely for shock value because, in spite of the fact that, you know, she was very clearly close with both Eraserhead and Present Mike, in the arc that happens with both Aizawa and Mike afterwards, you see, like, revolving around Obero, they just never mention the fact that Kayama is dead. Like, it's just, like, an entire, like, you know, this is, like, one of their lifelong friends, presumably from UA, and they're just, like, the entire time they're, like, going about everything with Obero, they just ignore the fact that Namuri died in a horrific way, like, just a few, like, chapters prior. That just feels wrong. It feels like that should have been addressed, but it's very clear that they did that. They fridged her entirely. It's like, it really sucks. Magne is also, you have the issue of the fact that she is 100% a transgender stereotype, and to be fair, she is not the only one. Tiger is also very much a transgender stereotype. But Tiger, it's a little bit more, like, it's a little bit more, like, trying to be supportive, but, like, not in a good way. Meanwhile, Magne is kind of just bad. Kind of just not good. Like, that is the best way to describe that. Yeah, it just kind of really sucks. I feel like they moved on from that way too quickly. And they really should have addressed it more. I don't know why they moved on from that so quickly. It seems like something that should have been focused on more. Especially since, in reality, Midnight is the only early death that actually, like, mattered to 99% of the viewing audience. Like, the other people who died during that part of the war just, like, were not relevant or were barely characters. So, it's weird that they never addressed that ever again. And speaking of dead characters, oh boy, let's talk about Toya and Toga and Tomura. Yay! So, let's talk about the fact that Izuku is a parallel to all three of these characters. Like, primarily to Himiko, and then still to a very similar or identical degree to Tomura, and still relatively close to to Toya. Hold on, sorry, I just gotta focus on this. That one's T-posing still. Like, very clearly, you have multiple characters. The biggest comparison is obviously Himiko, Tomura, and Izuku, who were all people who were abused for a very similar reason. Like, Himiko and Izuku are probably the closer ones. It's like, both Tenko and Izuku didn't have anyone to save them throughout their childhood. The only difference is the fact that Izuku was eventually found by a hero, and Tenko was found by a villain. But the biggest parallel is obviously Himiko and Izuku, who were both victims of discrimination based upon their quirk or lack thereof. And it's just like, it's something that makes Himiko falling in love with Izuku very interesting and painful, because these two are reflections of each other, where Izuku rejected what society saw in them as flawed, where Himiko embraced it and Himiko chose freedom as opposed to choosing to be swayed by the whims of society. Oh, I already have one of those? Damn. I made a mistake. It's very interesting in that regard. I guess I did already have one, huh? Because I think the truth of the matter is, if Himiko or Izuku found each other prior to the events of the series, they would not have been enemies. If Izuku had met Toga before, they would have saved each other, or made each other worse, and either would have been fine, honestly. I truly think that if Himiko had approached Izuku and done her entire spiel about asking him out before the final battle, I don't know if he would have rejected her. I feel like if he actually got to know her, then they would have been close friends and probably would have, the reason that both is, Ochako and... The reason that Ochako and Himiko work so well as a pairing is the same reason that Izuku and Himiko work so well as a pairing. And that's because they both, well, I actually would say that Himiko and Izuku work better as a pairing, but that's a whole other story. I think because these are people who were abused for who they are, I think they would have found solace within each other. And also, if Izuku, said yes to her offer, and then gave Himiko his blood, and then the war would have been over immediately, because then you would have Himiko have the ability to use twice his blood, and then be able to clone 1,000 Izukus. And there you go, the war is won.